All right, everyone. Welcome to How to Build a Profitable CMMC Compliance as a Service offering. We're going to wait just a couple of moments as we see people come in. And while we have people rolling in, just wanted to start with a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, I would like you all to know that I'm coming to you live from Jerusalem in Israel. So Um, it didn't occur to me until we just started to do this that I don't have the three screens I usually operate with. So my lovely assistant, Sarah, who's also here on the call with me as my co-host, will be helping to facilitate things like Q&A and making sure that things are running smoothly. Sarah, please make sure that you stop on the Q&A and stop me because you know me, I'm going to keep talking and make sure we get all the questions answered because usually like I said, I usually have three screens and I'm making everything happen at the same time, but I'm on my little laptop here in Jerusalem. So that's not happening like it usually does. But it's my pleasure to be able to be coming live to you to tell you about how to build a profitable CMMC compliance as a service offering. So let's go ahead and get started. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to talk about how to sell compliance as a service at a higher price point than you would for MSP and MSSP services. We're also going to talk about positioning that service so you can cut through the noise and stand out in the marketplace. And I'm going to tell you about mistakes that will tank profitability of your offering, as well as the proven process that we use to make compliance as a service fun and easy to deliver. So let's get to it. So, if you're here, you probably already know who I am. But in case you're new and you have no idea who I am or why I'm speaking about this, I'm Leia Shilobod. I founded Intech Solutions as a security focused MSP in 2006. We have three non negotiables at our company: security is paramount, detailed documentation, and excellence in communication. So, when I found out that many of my clients needed to have a 100-171 compliance, and there was a lot about systems, processes, and documentation. I was like, yeah, sign me up. Let's go. Intech Solutions is a CMMC RPO. And I finally was able to schedule my test for my CCP. So excited to be able to take that as soon as I return. And I also am a certified information security manager, which was probably the most fun exam I've ever studied for in my whole life. I'm also the author of the CMMC IT Documentation Toolkit. Last year, we released a documentary, Cybercrime, and I'm the author of two books. Quick disclaimer, and I said this to you before, what I'm going to share with you today is what has worked for my company doing this work for the last 5 years. After hundreds of hours of study, learning, lots of failure, you don't have to use anything I show you today to create your CMMC compliance program. But if you want a shortcut, I can teach it to you. So what I think was really interesting, and I think this is the reason why we're all here today, and that is to not miss the opportunity, right? So in December of 2021, when I went down to Miami, at the time, I didn't mean to meet with Fred Picola, but he ended up coming over to the conference that I was at. And I asked him, I said, Fred, what is the biggest trend that MSPs really need to be looking at right now? And he put up his arms kind of wide and he said, compliance is coming. And I remember saying, oh, amen, brother, you're speaking my language. So that's why we're all here, right? We're here because we recognize that there is an opportunity for CMMC. There's over 200,000 companies in the defense industrial base that need to be compliant in one way or another. The vast majority need an MSP, and most also need help with CMMC compliance, which means that there's tons of business that's just waiting to be made. Um, there's huge pressure on MSP works to get cheaper and cheaper. I mean, think about it today. We are in an environment where we have lots of consolidation, where lots of MSPs are being bought, and they're driving down the price of MSP services. It's becoming commoditized. Compliance work, however, is not commoditized if you're able to position it properly. And we're going to talk about the difference between positioning it as a commodity versus value. It also gives you a competitive advantage and economies of scale if you're specializing in a vertical, because then you don't just get stuck in the white noise of, I do computer IT stuff. You have something to be able to go to market with that makes you stand out from everyone else. And when you specialize in in a compliance and you can speak very clearly and confidently on that, you're going to be able to stand out from a lot of MSPs that say things like, "Oh yeah, sure, sure, sure. We do the MSP thing, the CMMC thing. Yeah, 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 we do that." And finally, you also get to serve and protect your country by securing the defense industrial base, which, in my opinion, is a really great addition to the fact that we're already doing really good work for these companies by securing them from cybersecurity threats. So I promised you to talk about, what are you going to charge? So what do you charge for compliance as a service? First of all, you have to decide on what you're delivering. Are you going to deliver these things? Gap assessments, POAM management, remediation, documentation? Are you going to include a GRC tool? Are you going to manage this compliance program itself? Are you going to sell them security tool sets? Are you going to do some training and awareness or security operations training? Are you going to wrap in some MSP services? You got to figure that out first before you figure out what you're going to charge. And then once you do, you have to understand, what is it that you are actually going to deliver? Are you going to deliver a checklist for compliance? In other words, like, here, do this stuff, and then you can be compliant. So if that's the stuff that you think you're delivering, that means you're not delivering value. And if you think about it, there's a lot of organizations out there right now that are providing this for you already. They're providing for the defense industrial base, and actually for a lot of different organizations that have many different kinds of compliances, a checklist, and say, do these things, you get compliant, and then they can just kind of, mosey on down the road and they feel okay being quote unquote compliant. Now, if you want to deliver stuff, you're going to be commoditized. If you're commoditized, that's low value. So if you want to deliver value, then you can charge more money. What's the difference? What does that look like? So this is the stuff. That's stuff. If you say, we'll do these things for you, that you can say, you're going to start a conversation with a client or prospect that's, oh, well, how much do you charge for gap assessment? Oh, how much do you charge for your documentation package? Oh, how much do you charge to manage my program? And if you think about it from that perspective, and that's what you're selling is the stuff, then they're just going to try to shop you to see what is the cheapest stuff that we can get. But instead, if you sell value, then you can charge more money. Don't deliver a checklist. Nick Sonnenberg in the book Come Up for Air said mature organizations create processes from regular projects. So instead of a checklist, assure that you have an ongoing process. The checklist approach is going to have poor organizational transformation and adoption, plus great costs. That is the formula for a checklist approach. Let me say that again. If what you are doing, what you are selling, and what you are telling the client, and remember that what you explain to them versus what you deliver may be two different things. In the prospect's or client's mind, if they just see that you're selling them a checklist, then they're going to commoditize it. If a checklist approach means that you're going to have poor organizational transformation, in other words, following a checklist does not transform an organization. It does not usher in a culture of security. And it does not help the organization to change things that they need to do or to adopt those changes. And it's still going to cost a lot of money. Implementing a checklist is going to cost a lot of money. There's nothing in this at all, nothing in this formula that sounds valuable, good, or worth our time, or certainly not worth their time. So not going to pay for it. So you need to think instead about implementing a cybersecurity compliance program that identifies and reduces organizational risk. So, no checklists, cybersecurity compliance program identifies and reduces organizational risk. Because I'm telling you, if you've been doing this work at all, you know that it's a fair amount of a lift, right? There is a lot of things that you have to do. You have to do an assessment of the organization to see where they are right now, create that poem, figure out how are you going to close the poem, try to usher in this change throughout the entire organization, implement documentation, get rolling, and then going over time. That takes a lot of effort. So if you're going to do all this effort anyway, then do it in a way where you have a systemized approach that does maybe a little bit more than just CMMC, and does it over time to provide massive value for the organization. And then it also helps your client to determine if they are going to spend that money and time, that it is actually in the right place for 10x the value. And so you can price value higher than you can a commodity. So when you price the offering based on what you're able to deliver the client, you're going to be able to charge more. Right now, maybe you're charging $150 to $250 an hour for like engineering MSP hourly services. For compliance hourly services, you can charge between $200 to $350 an hour if you're doing compliance consulting. But this is not the only thing you should think about when you are pricing your program, because you're delivering value, not just trading your hours for dollars. So you need to value your own time. Think of your direct time investment, your dollars per hours being worth $500 to $1,000 an hour. And like some of you right now might be falling off your chair and saying, crap, I can't like, on my bill be like $500 an hour to do this work or $1,000 an hour to do this work. You're not actually going to do that. You're not going to put a line item there that says, oh, I charge $1,000 an hour for my time. Not yet, maybe. But when you are building a program, think about your time investment, your direct time investment worth that amount. Why? Because you're going to put in a lot of massive hours and effort to build a program template, a valuable program template and system that every client that you work with is going to benefit from. That and every single one of them that gets the value of that is getting hundreds of hours of value, especially if you can replicate it. So by the time that you go to actually the direct time investment to deliver this service, think of this as your hourly rate when you price the service. Because, guys, if you try to get stuck in just dollars per hours and trading it that way, then you are no longer in the value mindset with the client. You are now back in commodity mindset with the client. So we're not going to talk to them about how many hours we're going to spend on this. We're going to talk to them about the value it's going to bring to the organization and the proven process that we have in order to get you compliant, keep you compliant, and implement a cybersecurity compliance program where you're going to save money, put it in the right place for the most bang for your buck, be able to get past not only CMMC compliance, but also other compliances, and assure that you can be insurance worthy. So you might be asking, well, if it's so awesome, Leia, why isn't everyone jumping into this, CMMC game? Well, you know that managing compliance across many clients is hard. You have to keep track of the status, the compliance activity, because that evidence is required. By the way, um, we know that this is an evolving ecosystem. Yes, that word just came out of my mouth and I hate that word. However, that's what they call it. We know it's evolving right now. We have some assessors that right now are saying that their expectation when you present a client for assessment is that you have evidence of this compliance activity already when they are being presented for assessment. That means that they're looking for at least several months of evidence that they have some kind of compliance program in place, something, and they've been doing it over time. So you have to keep track of all of those things to show that it's being done. It's hard to get them to listen to you, to adopt and onboard the program. Maybe you're concerned because, like, are you doing the right thing to pass an assessment? Maybe you don't feel like you're an expert. And maybe there's some liability because am I giving them the right guidance? And there are there are plenty of people out there right now that are willing to take your money and your client's money to say, hey, I've got CMMC in a box. Um, hey, here's the easy button for CMMC. And if anyone's been doing this for any amount of time and tested or looked at any of these things, we know that there is no such thing as CMMC in a box. There's not one thing you can buy and then you press an easy button and it's all done for you. That's just not possible. I'm going to take a moment right now, like I do every single time I talk about CMMC, and caution everyone to not try to do this work without some kind of a GRC tool. We used to use spreadsheets to keep track of this, and kind of sums that up. Um, they're unruly, they're all over the place. It's hard to keep them updated. Being able to figure out where you actually are in compliance, manage that POAM, manage the projects. It's really a pain in the butt. And people just don't update it. So like at the beginning, it looks like it's going to be easy. And then over time, it's just falls apart that way. So I always recommend to have a solid GRC tool to store the progress and evidence of compliance. I've been working with personally Future Feed. I've demoed tons of tools, but I've been working with Future Feed and also with Kamanja for a long time. Future Feed for years, and Kamanja most recently. The thing that I love about both of these tools and these companies is that they listen to their end users and they are continuously changing and updating the tool. So it's very useful specifically for CMMC. And they are hungry to say, how can we make this better? How can we help you to manage the compliance better? What else can we do? How can we make it more user friendly and then help it have this so that you can just present it to an assessor and the information that they need is clearly and easily there. If you don't use either one of these tools, you're not going to break my heart, but please ask them these kinds of questions and query them. Are they talking with assessors? Are they talking with you? Are they improving the tool to make it, not cool, like not, we press a button and your whole compliance is done, but then actually helping you to actually properly manage a program and make it easy for an assessor to see that you're doing the right thing. Then there's the bane of your existence. If I've got IT people on here, no, 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 it's not printers, even though I hate printers. It's documentation for many people. So IT people, in my experience, love documentation and hate to create it. But anywhere you see a verb in the controls, that means that there's documentation that's required. And assuring that your clients have the right documents, not just the technical ones, can be hard. And if you like to write documentation, raise your hand. And you can really raise your hand if you want to. I'm not really being able to see you right now. But I happen to love to create documentation because I'm a systems and processes girl. What I noticed is that if you just download something from the internet and slap a logo on it, it's not going to be functional. Actually, a lot of those things look really good on paper, but they're not usable in real life. Writing your own takes hundreds of hours. No one wants to do it. And you need something that's clear, simple, relevant, and easy to use. Don't worry. In a minute, I'm going to show you the easy way to eliminate that problem of having hundreds of hours to create documentation and make that just minutes. because guess what? We had the same problem, guys. All right, that's backwards. So what do we do? This is what we did, right? How do we build it first? First, we said, well, let's do some policies. And when I was like, okay, that makes sense. We'll start at the top. We'll do policies. I looked around, couldn't, didn't, I was like, well, the stuff on the internet kind of sounds okay, but I don't know if it's going to be good. Oh my gosh, here's my friend. My friend just stood up a security operations center and passed his SOC 2 audit. I bet his policies are bang up. Hey, buddy, can you let me have your policies? And he was like, sure, here's all my policies. I was like, this is gold. Gold. It just passed SOC 2. It's got to be awesome. I read through it a little. I'm like, this sounds really good. So we started to use that. And then what I found out after that was that, well, okay, so we have some policies, and then maybe then we'll create some procedures or processes, because I've got a whole bunch of those because I'm an MSP and we have procedures and processes. And then maybe we'll throw like an incident response plan in there or something, because requirements. And now we've got like some policies from the SOC 2 audit. We have my day-to-day policies and procedures and processes that my guys are using, right? And then, maybe like an IRP that my client looked at one time. And guess what? That didn't work out real well at all. So those policies, they were excited to get them, never looked at them again. All we had was an IRP because requirements. And then my guys just had some procedures and processes they were using from day to day that we already had because we're a document driven MSP. And I was like, all right, well, that didn't work out real well. So we had to change it up. We flipped the system. I'm like, okay, so let's start where we are right now. My guys day to day as an MSP, my guys are using SOPs every single day. So we have a lot of those. What's missing then in these procedures, things that we know we have to be doing in order to maintain compliance, and we don't have those SOPs in place because like I haven't explained to the guys that this is something we have to do on a regular basis or really gotten us into a cadence. And then I was like, okay, so my guys have SOPs that they're using every day, but the client has to get engaged in the CMMC process over time. So if that's the case, what's the mechanism that we're going to do that? We created plans. Our plans are the collaborative way of managing our clients. So the incident response plan, as you know, which is a requirement, hopefully doesn't happen that often. So you're not going to collaborate on incident response itself, hopefully very often, because we don't want to have incidents. But the incident response plan that we revamped has a whole bunch of scenarios in it. So every quarter we'd select one of those scenarios to do like a baby tabletop exercise and talk through what would happen if XYZ occurred in the company. And that was collaborative. We created a risk management plan that detailed the what a risk assessment was going to look like, which included all the compliance cadence activities that we were going to do through the course of the quarter, and how we were going to assess that we were doing all the right things. We were going to assess if our documentation was up to date on a quarterly basis with specific agendas, meet with the client, and go over those things and collect the evidence. So those were our plans. And then we said, okay, so now that we've got all this good mojo going and we're kind of managing a program, what are overarching policies that we can create that are simple, relevant, and tie everything together? So completely flipping it the other way. And those overarching policies, like I mentioned, not only relevant to the organization, but simple. When we had like a whole bunch of different policy documents, like, well, here's a policy for access control, and here's a policy for audit and accountability, and here's a policy for physical act. I mean, like it was not functional or simple because there were so many different documents, and a lot of them were just really wordy and you almost fell asleep reading them, which did not help anyone. So when we did it this way, we found success, and it was actually fun now. So I want to show you guys something really fast. Let me see if I can do this the way that I want to. Right, here we go. There we are. Modern technology. So this is what we did. This is not a document that we use for our clients. This is going to be, excuse me, this is not a document that we use internally with our guys that are doing the day-to-day stuff. This is what we use as a client-facing document to help them see, here's at a high level, our compliance actions cadence. Every day, every week, every month, every quarter, and then once a year during specific quarters, the different things that we're going to do to assure that over time, we're doing all the activities that we need to, and we're collecting evidence that we need to, and we're keeping our program tight over time, right? So this is where the value comes in, because they're starting to see it's not just a checklist. There are things that we have to do on a regular basis. Let's just look at this. How many of these things right here are things that you're doing already as an MSP or an IT consultant for the company, or making sure that they already have it in place? This is part of your cadence. And then we also created very specific, of course, created very specific processes for how we're going to do that quarterly risk management meeting, who's going to do what, and with specific agendas. So what ended up happening, we put it all together, and we called it the CMMC IT documentation toolkit, because after we were done doing all of that work, we no longer had any creativity left, and so it had to be something very simple. But what I found is that because we had this proven process, that OSCs knew that if they came to us, that they would have a really high level of success, and it would be very clear over time. And not only that, guys, but it was replicatable, right? Hang on a second. It was replicatable because now we have a thing that we can just take to the next client. Clearly, they're going to be a little different, but it's the same process every time at a high level. So we had it, we ran it past some really smart people. So I talked to Stacy Bostjanek and John Ellis, and I said, this is what we've created for the DIB, the small businesses in the DIB, so that they can not only get compliant, but then also have a larger cybersecurity compliance program. They said this is exactly what the DIB needs. Thanks, guys. I talked to my good friend Fernando Machado, who owns CyberSec, CyberSec Investments. He's a CMMC assessor, and his company is T3PAO. I went through everything with him, and he said, looks good. I'm going to send you a list of evidence you'll need to collect so your clients are assessment ready. And we used that list to actually modify that risk management process and risk assessment process, so that we were certain that every quarter we're collecting the right things that they're going to need in order to pass assessment. And then I talked to Amira Armand, who actually has her own set of documentation as well that she sells for Curious Solutions. And she said, you're doing good work and deserve to be shouted out. The thing that I love about a lot of people in the CMMC community is that we're all, those of us that are here for like the right reasons, are always supportive. They're not like both Mira, me, and other wonderful people, like the people on this page here, are all about sharing best practices and helping each other and helping the DIB. So if you're not already deep into this ecosystem and these people, definitely connect with them. I think it's really remarkable that someone that technically has a quote unquote competing product, that both of us really talk each other up for the things that we're doing. That's Amira. So at a high level, what does this compliance program look like? So the first thing you do is identify the key data, business processes, and technology. For CMMC itself, the key data is going to be your FCI and your CUI, right? If you're going to implement a good cybersecurity compliance program, then it's not going to just be key data, FCI, CUI. It's going to be any key data that they need to protect. So that's why in our information control and flow plan, we don't just say, well, let's just identify the CUI and FCI. It's part of the process in the data flow diagram. But the plan itself categorizes all the data that they care about. What's public, what's allowed to be public, what's private in the organization, and then inside of that, categorizing the different kinds of data. Is it going to be something that's protected in another way, like PHI or PII? Is it going to be intellectual property? Maybe PCI financial data. And so the plan details all of those things and helps the client to knock out a lot of different needs in the cybersecurity compliance program, and then tie that data to specific business processes and technology to really understand the flow throughout the organization, and maybe if business process or technology has to change. Then from the CMMC perspective, you're going to validate the client's CMMC self-assessment, which essentially for most of us means throwing out everything that they've already done because either it was done by somebody who didn't really understand the control set, or it was done 18, 24 months, 36 months ago, and now doesn't mean anything anymore because it hasn't been updated. So we do a new one. And then we're going to create discrete projects to close that poem. So clearly you're explaining to everyone in the organization, you do these 14 projects and you link those projects to each one of those poem items or many poem items to specific projects. So you can clearly see, close these projects, we close the poem. And I even go ahead and give some budgetary numbers to those projects, because every client wants to know how long is it going to take and how much is it going to cost every single time. How long is it going to take? How much is it going to cost? And at this point right here, when you do this, you can give them some estimates. It's not a quote, guys. I say, hey, it's rough numbers. So you can say, is it $100 or $100,000? You give them a stake in the ground. Then we go ahead and we onboard the IT documentation toolkit, CMMC compliance program. It's not a list of templates that you put somebody's name on and logo. It is a how to implement a compliance program. And then during that, you're implementing the risk management plan that I talked about, and those meetings as the cadence to get compliant and stay compliant, continue to show the value and continue to help that organization. So I suggest that you use this because not only will your leads go up exponentially because people will see that you have a proven process, organizations lined up to co-market with us and create programs with us because they realized how valuable what it is we have created, and that they know that when they refer us, that we get the job done. So remember how compliance is coming, right? It's coming not just to CMMC, it's coming to every industry. So if you decide that you want to specialize in CMMC, then clearly this program is going to work for you. This process will work for you. But it's not just about CMMC compliance, because if you understand how to effectively implement a cybersecurity compliance program, then you can implement any cybersecurity compliance program. Simply change the scope of the controls, right? In fact, Ross Brous, who is, he doesn't do anything with CMMC. He does things with HIPAA. He has an MSP in New Jersey. And I think this year, they're going to crest 8 or 9 million. He said compliance is coming, whether you're a government contractor, healthcare practice, or small business. I wanted to create a compliance program, but simply did not know where to begin. The process and documentation in the toolkit alone are light years beyond anything else you're going to find. And the weekly peer coaching calls allow you to share and compare your processes. Also, tackling this compliance gorilla is a massive bonus. Thank you, Ross. There's probably 3 big things right now that are standing in your way in order to kick off. The first thing is you probably don't have or aren't sure you have the right documentation for your compliance offering. The second thing I hear people say a lot is that you're unsure how to create a steady stream of prospects or new clients. And the third thing is that I hear often is that, that CMMC has changed a lot already. It's going to change again. And you're concerned that maybe you don't have the right knowledge, the right connection, the right like go to make sure you're doing the right thing. So that's why we've offered this to other people. So actually, I've had organizations ask me, Leia, why are you telling other people how to do this thing? And this is why, guys, I'll tell you honestly. There's actually a couple reasons. The first is that we have 200,000 companies to help. I can't help 200,000 companies. Um, the second is that there are a lot of other people in this ecosystem who are really taking advantage of organizations, and I think that's just wrong. I think it's completely unethical and immoral. The other is that there are a lot of organizations that want to do this well and right, and I have a process and a program that really helps companies. If I keep that to myself and I don't teach other people how to do that, that is absolutely selfish. And that's also disallowing organizations to be protected and also for a lot of people to be able to have as much fun as I am doing this work. And that doesn't make any sense to me. That's not the way that I operate. So that's why we are offering the toolkit to other MSPs, MSSPs, and IT consultants. And we also implemented the coaching program so that we can come together and we can talk together about how to make everything better. I believe that the most minds wins. So you have a bunch of smart people coming together. I'm testing this program every single day live on all of my dozens of clients. Now I have other people also doing the same thing. People come and they say, oh, well, did you think about this? Oh, well, my client needed this piece of documentation. No problem. So we create it or we make it better and create a new version, and everybody wins because they all get the value of the new documentation and the new versions, new and whatever new information comes out, we change it up, everyone gets it. You also have accountability to actually get this stuff rolling, not just implementing policies, plans, and procedures with your clients, but also to get the marketing done. Just this week, we were talking to everybody and made them all commit to their first webinar because people needed a little bit of a fire under their rear ends. Get that done. Okay, now I just saw like 10 people drop off the call because they're like, oh no, we have to do webinars. I'm kidding, that didn't really happen. You don't have to do webinars, but you definitely have to tell people about how you're able to help them in order for them to write you a check so that you can help them. So there has to be something you do to get it out there, and we help you. We also have SMEs join the calls for perspective and knowledge transfer. We just did a series where we had several C3PAOs come to the call, and we were able to, we said, we want you to tell us what your philosophy is and approach when you're doing an assessment. And one would think that because there's an official cap, well, it's a draft, that everyone would think the same way, and they don't all think the same way. So that was really insightful. Because your clients are going to come to you and they're going to say, who should I choose? And if you don't give them some kind of guidance and they go out and they pick somebody who's like really ultra rigorous, they're going to look at you and be like, why didn't you help me out with this? You should have known the answer to this. So we had all them come, we got to ask them a ton of questions, and got some perspective there to take back to our clients. So guys, learn it and replicate it. Learn how to create a compliance program, replicate the process across all of your compliance clients. And then, that's the reason why there's MSPs in our toolkit program who don't even offer CMMC compliance at all. All right, so we did this already. We had the onslaught of questions, and that's when we teach you how to implement. I'm running out of time. All right, so first thing that we do is we do a 7-week CMMC provider fast start program. In fast start, we have, oops, that's not, the date's not right. But we're going to have 7 calls that allow you to kind of get up on where everyone else in the group is, what is in the toolkit, how do you use it, how do you scope, how do you do a gap assessment, how do you be the source and link with other sources in the community, how do you position yourself as a trusted advisor, How do you build your offering? How do you market it? How do you sell it? And then what I just said. And then actually the accountability calls start after that. You get to join the rest of the group on the weekly calls. John Panetti, who's been in the program for almost a year, he said it helped him to focus energy on high value business goals and increase the focus and results. Because trust me, when you get into all the documentation, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. This is great. And you think, holy crap, like, where do I even start trying to implement this? Because there's so many moving pieces. So it's really helpful to have that accountability. Why should you do it now? Because right now we're actually running a special for a cohort of people to get into. Let me see, how do we back up? There we are. So people can come into the 7-week fast start. So you have live calls. You also get an unlimited license for the toolkit content. And as long as you're in the program, all updates that we do, you get the benefit of that as well. New content. Yeah, and it's not just like the stuff that's required. We have stuff that's not even required. We had somebody say, hey, you know what, it makes sense for us to have a vendor risk management program. So we created that and everybody got the benefit of that. And you can use it across all of your clients, CMMC compliance clients or non-compliance clients, and turn them into compliance clients. I have a longtime client that's a transit broker that has no regulatory compliance, but was about ready to have their insurance premiums skyrocket. And I was like, guys, this is because you just doubled your business from a $30 million to a $70 million business. You need to be serious about managing the risk in your organization. We need to do a compliance program. And I said, okay. And I said, okay, like, how much is it going to cost? I said, $2,800 a month. That's just for the compliance program. And I said, okay, no problem. Okay, no problem. My MSP services for them are $3,200 a month. I nearly doubled what they are spending with us, just adding compliance. Okay. So this is how much it would be if you bought everything by itself. But if you're able to close just one new client on a gap assessment this year, and you sell that gap assessment for $12,000 and implement a CMMC compliance program for $3,600, which is usually what I sell to CMMC compliance clients in the DIB, that's over $50,000 in new revenue in 12 months. And this would be $15,000, which is a deal. But instead, we're offering the entire thing. And then I won't okay, my slide. What happened to it? Oh, sometimes, guys, I got it. Sometimes I don't. That's all right. I guess what you're gonna have to do is go to it.toolkit.com to find out the amazing price. So the toolkit itself is on sale for $67.50. We include the 7-week fast start, and if you sign up for the toolkit as well as the coaching calls, which are also discounted too. So if you are not sure, email us and we can talk about it if that's what makes sense to you. And if you would like to join the program, then email us and tell us that, or you can just go to it.toolkit.com and sign up for the toolkit and the program. And everybody's going to say, I totally lost what the pricing was on that. And that's okay, because my lovely assistant Sarah is going to follow up with you all because you were here today and let you know specifically what that was. And that was a horrible close. So you gotta forgive me. Any questions?
I don't see anything in the Q&A or the chat.
Right. All right, guys. So Sarah's going to follow back up with you. And if to let you know how to take advantage of this amazing offer to get involved with 7-week fast start get the toolkit, start selling this and providing massive value to your clients. And as always, I will see y'all on LinkedIn. Wait, we have one. Chat is disabled. Sorry, chat is disabled. Anybody have any questions in the Q&A? Awesome. Recording available. You bet. Recordings will always be available to you. All right. Well, God bless you all from the Holy Land, and we will see you when I get back to the States.